The tray slipped slightly in her trembling hands, and 2 porcelain coffee cups rattled loudly against the silver plate. Every conversation inside the billionaire's luxurious office faded into silence as the young waitress stared at the enormous black and white portrait hanging on the polished wooden wall. Her breathing became uneven, her eyes filled with disbelief, and before she could stop herself, her voice echoed through the room. She pointed toward the portrait with shaking fingers and cried out, "Sir, why is my father in your office portrait?" The billionaire froze instantly. His phone slowly slipped from his hand, his face turned pale, and for the first time in decades, the men known for controlling billion-dollar empires looked completely helpless. Before we continue this unforgettable story, if you believe kindness can change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional journeys that restore faith in humanity. Emma had worked as a waitress at the prestigious Hale Grand Hotel for nearly 3 years. Every morning she arrived before sunrise, tied her apron carefully, forced a smile onto her tired face, and served wealthy guests who rarely looked into her eyes. Most of them never imagined that behind her calm smile lived a young woman carrying years of unanswered questions. Emma had lost her father when she was only 6 years old. At least, that was what she had always been told. Her mother, Sarah, never spoke much about him except to say that he had been a kind man who disappeared during an overseas humanitarian mission and was presumed dead after an accident. There had been no body, no funeral, only a faded photograph that Sarah kept hidden inside an old wooden box. Life had never been easy after that. Sarah worked endless shifts cleaning offices while raising Emma alone. They lived in a tiny apartment where every dollar mattered, yet Sarah never allowed bitterness to enter their home. She constantly reminded Emma that character was more valuable than wealth and that kindness always found its way back. Those words became Emma's greatest strength, even when she watched classmates enjoy comfortable lives while she worried about rent and groceries. On that unforgettable afternoon, Emma was unexpectedly assigned to deliver coffee to Richard Hale himself, the billionaire owner of Hale International. Employees whispered about him constantly. Some admired his brilliant business mind, while others feared his cold personality. Few people had ever seen him smile. He spent most of his days inside the private executive office overlooking the city's skyline, making decisions that affected thousands of employees across the country. Emma entered quietly, hoping to place the coffee on the desk and leave unnoticed. But everything changed the moment her eyes wandered toward the large portrait hanging beside the bookshelves. It showed 2 younger men standing shoulder to shoulder, smiling proudly after what looked like a charity project decades earlier. One of them was clearly a younger Richard Hale. The other man was unmistakable. The same warm eyes, the same gentle smile, the same face she had memorized from her mother's treasured photograph. Richard slowly stood from his chair. The confident billionaire seemed unable to find words. His eyes remained fixed on Emma, as though he were seeing a ghost from another lifetime. After several long moments, he quietly asked for her mother's name. When Emma answered, every remaining color disappeared from his face. Richard dismissed everyone from the office and closed the heavy wooden doors himself. For several minutes he simply stared at the portrait before finally admitting that the man beside him had been his closest friend, Daniel Carter. They had met as young engineers with impossible dreams of changing the world. Together they built innovative projects for struggling communities, believing success meant helping others before helping themselves. Daniel had possessed remarkable intelligence but even greater compassion. Richard confessed that without Daniel, he would never have become the businessman he was today. Years earlier, they had traveled together on a humanitarian mission overseas. During a violent landslide in a remote mountain village, chaos erupted everywhere. Richard became trapped beneath collapsing debris. Daniel risked his own life to pull him free. By the time rescue teams arrived, Daniel had vanished while searching for trapped children farther down the valley. Weeks of searching produced nothing. Authorities declared him missing and eventually presumed dead. Richard lowered his head with overwhelming regret. He admitted that after returning home, he had tried repeatedly to locate Sarah, but she had already moved away, struggling financially and avoiding public attention. His rapidly growing company demanded every moment of his life, and with each passing year, guilt slowly replaced determination. The portrait had remained in his office not as decoration but as a daily reminder of the men whose sacrifice had given him everything. Emma listened silently, torn between grief and gratitude. For the first time, she heard someone speak about her father not as a memory but as a hero. Every story Richard shared painted a picture of a man who had quietly transformed countless lives without seeking recognition. Emma realized that although her father had left no fortune behind, he had left something far greater, a legacy of courage. That evening Richard asked to meet Sarah. She hesitated at first, still carrying years of unanswered pain, but finally agreed. When they met, neither could speak immediately. Time had aged them both, yet the memory of Daniel connected them instantly. Richard apologized with tears in his eyes for allowing life and success to bury the promise he had once made to care for Daniel's family if anything ever happened. Sarah surprised him with forgiveness instead of anger. She explained that holding onto resentment would never have honored Daniel's memory. The only thing she had ever wanted was for Emma to know the truth about the father she barely remembered. From that day forward, Richard quietly transformed not only Emma's future but also the purpose of his company. He established the Daniel Carter Foundation, funding education for children from struggling families and supporting humanitarian workers around the world. Every scholarship carried Daniel's name instead of Richard's. Emma was invited to help lead the foundation, ensuring her father's values remained at its heart rather than becoming another corporate project. Emma refused expensive gifts or luxury homes. She continued working until completing her education, believing that earning success mattered more than receiving it. Richard admired her even more for that decision. Slowly, their relationship became something neither had expected. He never tried to replace her father, but he became the mentor Daniel would have wanted for his daughter. Months later, the Grand Hotel unveiled a new memorial in its main lobby. Guests who walked through the entrance no longer first noticed Richard Hale's achievements. Instead, they saw a simple inscription beneath Daniel's photograph. It read that true greatness belongs not to those who become rich, but to those whose kindness continues changing lives long after they are gone. Visitors often stopped to read the story. Many wiped away tears. Employees stood a little taller knowing the company had been built on sacrifice instead of ambition alone. Emma smiled whenever she passed the memorial because she finally understood that her father had never truly disappeared. His love had simply been waiting for the right moment to find its way back home. If this story has touched your heart so far, please write this in the comments: kindness never dies. We'd love to read every message. As the years passed, thousands of students graduated through the Daniel Carter Foundation, many returning to serve communities that had once forgotten them. Richard often admitted that despite building skyscrapers and billion-dollar companies, the greatest achievement of his life began the day a frightened waitress walked into his office carrying nothing more than a tray of coffee and the courage to ask one unforgettable question. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your family and friends, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows us to continue sharing powerful stories that remind the world that compassion, sacrifice, and love can change lives forever. Sometimes the greatest treasures are not hidden in bank accounts or grand offices. Sometimes they hang quietly on a wall, waiting for someone brave enough to ask a simple question that changes every life in the room forever. And in that moment, a waitress didn't just discover the truth about her father, she reminded a billionaire that no amount of success can ever outweigh the priceless legacy of a good heart.